Beyond the dust of centuries, in the heart of monumental architecture, lies a profound secret, a forgotten art that shaped civilizations. We are echoes of time, and today we unearth a mystery hidden not in inscriptions or artifacts, but within the very stones of ancient temples themselves. The masterful and perhaps unsettling art of psychological control. These were not merely sanctuaries for spiritual reverence. They were meticulously engineered environments, colossal stages where human perception was not only engaged but profoundly manipulated. From the moment an ancient pilgrim set foot on sacred ground, every shadow, every sound, every carefully placed stone was part of an intricate design. It was an overwhelming sensory experience, meticulously crafted not just to inspire awe, but to shape belief, enforce obedience, and solidify the formidable power of ancient elites, the priestly classes who understood the human mind with a sophistication that often eludes our modern textbooks. This journey takes us deep into the architecture of faith, exploring how ancient civilizations wielded the very fabric of their world to orchestrate a profound influence over the human spirit, a legacy now largely overlooked, yet echoing still in the grand designs of history. Imagine the dawn of civilization, when the lines between the natural world and the divine were blurred, and the spiritual was an intrinsic part of daily life. In this world, the temple was the epicenter, not just a building, but a living, breathing entity, a portal between the mundane and the celestial. What if these portals were also sophisticated machines, designed to guide, even coerce, the inner landscape of those who dared to enter? We delve into historical accounts and archaeological findings that challenge our conventional understanding of ancient worship, revealing a sophisticated understanding of human psychology far beyond what traditional narratives often describe. This was an art form as intricate as any sculpture or fresco, yet its canvas was the human psyche, and its masterpiece the collective belief of an entire populace. Consider the labyrinthine corridors of Egyptian pyramids, not merely tombs, but pathways into the underworld, or perhaps into a carefully constructed state of mind. Each turn, each dimly lit passage was a step further from the familiar world, a descent into the unknown. The air might have grown heavy with the scent of incense, a fragrant mist designed to heighten the senses, to shroud the rational mind in a veil of mysticism. The journey itself became a ritual, a physical manifestation of a spiritual quest, where disorientation and anticipation built with every step. Then, perhaps, after traversing what felt like an eternity of deepening shadows and confined spaces, the pilgrim would emerge. Not into another hallway, but into a blinding light, strategically cast to illuminate a revered deity, a pharaoh, or an sacred symbol. The sudden shift from darkness to brilliance, from claustrophobia to grandeur, would be nothing short of an epiphany, a moment designed to induce profound reverence, an overwhelming sense of the divine presence, and an implicit acceptance of the authority it represented. The very act of passage became an initiation, transforming the perception of the worshipper, making them susceptible to the messages conveyed by the powerful imagery and the imposing architecture. From the sun-drenched plains of Egypt, we travel to the verdant jungles where the Mayan civilization erected their awe-inspiring stepped structures. These were not just pyramids, they were mountains carved by human hands, reaching towards the heavens. Imagine approaching one of these colossal edifices, its immense scale dwarfing everything around it, a silent testament to power and cosmic order. The ascent itself was a pilgrimage, a physical challenge reflecting the arduous journey towards enlightenment or divine favor. Each step up the steep, precisely cut stairs, perhaps designed to be slightly uneven or strategically narrow, would demand full attention, forcing a focus that bordered on hypnotic. The rhythm of the climb, The increasing height offering ever more expansive views of the world below would systematically detach the individual from their earthly concerns, elevating them, physically and mentally, closer to the celestial realm. Reaching the summit, often crowned with a temple, would be a climactic moment, a spiritual apotheosis. The worshipper, breathless and awestruck, would stand at a vantage point overlooking their entire world, utterly convinced of the divine mandate of those who built such a monument, and by extension, of the sacred authority of the rulers and priests who commanded such incredible feats of engineering and devotion. The sheer elevation and exposed nature of the summit could induce both spiritual ecstasy and a humbling sense of vulnerability before the cosmic forces represented there, solidifying the power of the elite. Our journey then leads us to the shadowed groves of Greek oracles, places like Delphi, where the very landscape was intertwined with the divine. These were not always grand architectural marvels in the same vein as pyramids, but rather sites chosen for their natural mystique, their geologically active fissures, their vaporous exhalations, or their secluded, foreboding beauty. Here, the manipulation was more subtle, atmospheric. The very air might have been thick with particular scents, perhaps from burning herbs or the natural gases emanating from the earth. The soundscape would be carefully curated, perhaps the rustling of leaves in a sacred grove, the murmur of hidden springs, or the rhythmic chants of priestesses. The oracle's words, delivered in an altered state, would be imbued with authority, their ambiguity allowing for multiple interpretations, thus cementing their infallibility. The experience of seeking prophecy would be a journey into the unknown, shrouded in mystery and anticipation. The architectural elements, while less imposing, would serve to guide and contain, creating a liminal space where the boundaries of reality seemed to dissolve, preparing the seeker to receive and accept the divine pronouncements. Fear, reverence, a sense of destiny, all could be powerfully induced in these shadowed, sacred spaces where the natural world and human ritual converged to control the human spirit. Every architectural choice, from the grandiosity of a facade to the subtle slant of a floor, from the resonance of a chamber to the strategic placement of light and shadow, contributed to this overwhelming sensory experience. Ritualistic sounds, whether chants, drums, or the echoing footsteps within vast halls, would permeate the air, creating an immersive, almost hypnotic atmosphere. Symbolic carvings depicting deities, mythical beasts, or heroic narratives would reinforce the prevailing dogma, imprinting moral and religious lessons directly onto the psyche. These elements were not merely decorative, they were functional, designed to induce specific states, profound reverence for the divine and its earthly representatives, palpable fear of divine retribution or cosmic chaos, or exhilarating spiritual ecstasy, a feeling of direct communion with the sacred. This intricate interplay of sight, sound, scent, and spatial design reveals a sophisticated understanding of human psychology, an ancient form of neuroarchitecture, far beyond what the static illustrations in history textbooks often describe. It points to a conscious, deliberate effort to construct belief itself, making faith an experience that was not just heard or read, but deeply felt and physically embodied. But was this truly intentional psychological manipulation, a cold and calculated strategy to control populations, or was it a natural byproduct of deeply held religious beliefs, where sincere devotion spontaneously found expression in awe-inspiring forms? This is where scholarly debate truly begins, pulling back the veil on the ancient mindscapes and inviting us to question the very foundations of faith and power. Some scholars argue compellingly for the former, a deliberate top-down strategy by the priestly classes and ruling elites. In this view, the elaborate architecture, the sensory manipulations, the entire immersive experience were not accidental, but the result of conscious design. Priests, as custodians of sacred knowledge and interpreters of the divine will, understood the profound impact of environment on the human mind. They recognized that by orchestrating specific sensory inputs and architectural journeys, they could cultivate certain emotional states and belief systems. This would serve to maintain social order, reinforcing the existing hierarchy and cementing their own authority as intermediaries between humanity and the gods. The people, deeply moved by these meticulously crafted experiences, would be less likely to question the divine right of their rulers or the pronouncements of the priesthood. This perspective posits a highly strategic and pragmatic approach to religion, where faith, while perhaps genuine, was also a powerful tool for governance, a means of solidifying power through spiritual subjugation. The people, deeply moved by these meticulously crafted experiences, would be less likely to question the divine right of their rulers or the pronouncements of the priesthood. This perspective posits a highly strategic and pragmatic approach to religion, where faith, while perhaps genuine, was also a powerful tool for governance, a means of solidifying power through spiritual subjugation. It suggests that ancient civilizations had a nuanced, if unarticulated, grasp of cognitive biases and emotional triggers, employing them to great effect in the service of stability and control. Conversely, other scholars propose that these psychological effects, while undeniably powerful, were largely secondary, an organic byproduct of sincere spiritual engagement. From this perspective, the grand temples and intricate rituals evolved naturally as effective means for expressing and experiencing deeply held religious beliefs. People genuinely sought connection with the divine, and the magnificent structures, the sensory rituals, were the most potent ways to facilitate this connection. The awe, the fear, the ecstasy, these were authentic responses to a profound spiritual reality, not merely manufactured emotions. The psychological impact, therefore, was not the primary goal, but an inherent consequence of creating environments dedicated to profound spiritual communion. The focus was on worship, on honoring the gods, on communal identity and shared meaning, with the powerful emotional and psychological effects emerging naturally from this devotional intent. In this view, the ancients weren't trying to control minds in a cynical sense, but rather to create the most impactful and authentic spiritual experiences possible, and the human mind naturally responded with reverence and awe. A third, perhaps more nuanced perspective posits a symbiotic relationship, where religious conviction provided the fundamental framework and architectural ingenuity amplified its impact, creating a feedback loop of profound influence. In this view, the initial impulse was indeed one of genuine faith and devotion, the desire to honor deities, to understand the cosmos, to find meaning in existence. However, as human ingenuity developed, architects and priests collaboratively discovered increasingly effective ways to express and deepen these convictions through the built environment. The grand scale, the dramatic shifts in light, the evocative sense, the resonant sounds, these weren't merely functional, they were enhancements designed to make the spiritual experience even more potent, more immediate, and ultimately more indelible. Religious conviction gave birth to the architectural vision, and the architecture, in turn, intensified and solidified that conviction. It was a powerful synergy where belief and design reinforced each other, creating a spiritual environment so compelling that it became almost irresistible, blurring the lines between true faith and a meticulously crafted experience. This perspective acknowledges both the sincerity of ancient beliefs and the sophisticated methods employed to propagate and strengthen them, suggesting a dynamic interplay rather than a strict dichotomy. The debate among scholars continues, fueled by archaeological findings and reinterpretations of historical accounts. It is a profound inquiry into the nature of power, the origins of faith, and the enduring human susceptibility to environmental influence. Were these ancient temples, then, merely places of worship, or were they elaborate psychological theaters? Were our ancestors' profound religious experiences truly their own, born solely of personal conviction? Or were they, to some significant degree, meticulously crafted experiences, orchestrated by skilled hands using shadow and stone to guide the human spirit? As we pull back the veil on these ancient mindscapes, we are left to ponder the enduring legacy of this forgotten art. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of belief itself, and how deeply intertwined it can be with the structures and environments we create. Join us on Echoes of Time as we delve into these hidden histories. For in understanding how shadow and stone were wielded to control the human spirit in ages past, perhaps we can better understand the echoes of influence that still resonate in our present world. How much of what we believe today is truly our own, and how much is a meticulously crafted experience, subtly engineered by forces we barely perceive?